you everybody for waiting, and thanks for joining today. So today, for the first time, making their media debuts, we have Peter Skronsky and Brandon Joseph. Again, as you guys know, just message Athletic Communications in the chat to get in line to ask questions, and then from there I'll call on you, and we will we'll go from there. Anyways, so we'll start right with questions for Peter and Brandon. Amit.
Hi, Peter. This Amit Malik from NUsports.com. First question for you. What was it like getting your first game action in college football on Saturday? And thought the line looked pretty good. How would you rate your first game and performance?
Yeah, I think it was really exciting. Obviously, to get a win like that in my first game was awesome. It was a little nerve-wracking leading up to it, obviously, because it's a much bigger stage than high school. But it was a great win. I think as an offensive line, we played well, and I think I did solid. But looking at the film, there's a lot more that I can work on, and as a unit, we can work on and improve on this coming week.
Daniel.
Hey, Daniel Olinger here from Inside and You. I have a question for you, Brandon. Obviously, you guys as a secondary played very well on Saturday night, but I just want to know if there's anything personally you feel like you can improve on the most going forward, even after a great performance like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's a performance that we expect from our DBs. 3 interceptions across the board. It's something that we work to do every day, but at the same time, we're not satisfied. We're going to come out next game even harder, and we're never satisfied. So even though we had a good performance like that, we're going to come out next game even harder, making more tackles, making more plays, things like that.
Zach Windgrub.
Hey guys, Zach Windgrub, NUsports.com. For both of you, your impressions now after playing a game in virtually an empty stadium, what was that like for you guys, and how do you anticipate that affecting you now heading into your first road game of the season?
It was definitely different. Environment last year, having fans, something you can't compare, but we have energy on the sideline. We can create our own energy, and it's something that I think we use to our advantage. So even though their fans are not there, we're going to create our own energy, and we're going to use that for our advantage.
Yeah, just echoing what Brandon said about our sideline being awesome. And then I don't come from high school. It's hard to really compare. I've never really played in a Big Ten stadium before with fans. But, it's just the focus is the same. You're still focusing on the game and what you have to do to win. So I think, it's just going to be our focus going into next week, same as last week as well.
Noah Kaufman.
Hey guys, Noah Kaufman, Inside and You for Peter. Rashawn Slater, obviously one of the best offensive linemen this school has ever seen. I'm just curious about how much you guys got to interact before he made the decision to opt out, and if you guys are still in contact, if you guys are still talking, if he's talking to the line as a group even now.
Yeah, he's been a really great resource for me, even since he's opted out. We interacted over the summer. We had a couple of practices where we got to work together. But even with him gone, he's still been able to help me. He's been texting me advice and just telling me what I can do better, what I can improve on, which has been really awesome for me because obviously he's a really great resource, being one of the best linemen in the country. And that I feel, even though he's gone, I feel really lucky to even just have him as a resource.
Drew Schott.
Hey, Brandon. So Obviously, the secondary played great in your 40-point win against Maryland. Two underclassmen, you and Rod Hurd, led the team in tackles. What does that say about the secondary unit and its ability to kind of put younger players in the game and produce? And also, what does that say kind of about the leadership that you guys have on that front?
Yeah, I mean, me and Rod, this is our first game, so nerves were there, but we just got out there and did our thing. We got through the first play, let the nerves out, and then we were just able to go out there and play. And having the experience on that defense around us makes it so much easier. And the whole defense just plays as a unit, and we have great leaders, and Patty and JR as our captains, and they're just going to continue to lead this defense. So as young guys, we rely on our old vets, and we're going to all get the job done.
Eli.
From Inside and You, just kind of a follow-up for Brandon. Did playing alongside JR, did he give you any tips going into the game? What was that like?
Yeah, JR has been a leader for me since I've been here. He just told me to go in that game and do my thing. He's seen me in practice. He believed in my abilities, and he just told me it's just another football game. Just go out there and do your thing. So I listened to that. I trusted myself, played to my abilities, and just went out there and played football.
Paul Banks.
Hi, Paul Banks, the sportsbank.net and KGM, ESPN, Cedar Rapids, Iowa City. So this one is for Brandon. Just what are some of the stuff you see with the Iowa wide receivers specifically that pose that could be trouble? And then for Peter, looking at the Iowa defensive line, what have you kind of seen on film that makes them a challenge?
They have a good receiving core. We know that 89 is going to be a high targeted dude for them. 6 is their playmaker. We know that they're going to try to get deep plays, get the ball to those guys. So we're going to do what we can. We trust in Coach Hank and our scheme, and we're going to do what we can to defend it.
Yeah, up front, they're a big physical, fundamentally sound group, and they play really hard. And they have a ton of experience coming back, which is going to be a challenge for us. So, they're going to be a typical Iowa defense, really play really tough and be really physical. So that's going to be a big challenge for us.
Thanks, guys.
Daniel. Daniel, do you have another one?
Hey, this question's for Peter. You're one of the highest recruits to ever come to this program here at Northwestern. I'm sure you've seen that a lot of people in the fan base were really excited to watch you play. What is kind of your experience with the fan base so far? And like, what is that kind of support and like how much they appreciate you meant to you so far?
Yeah, it's really nice. I mean, obviously, the ratings and stuff doesn't really matter once you get to college, but the fan base has been great. And growing up really close to Evanston, I was a Northwestern fan. So just to be able to just represent the purple on Saturdays is really awesome for me and have that fan base support. The whole team is really great.
Noah Kaufman.
For Peter again. Peter, people talked about you being, as a recruit, being more of a guard center type. So the transition to tackle, if there was a transition, how hard was that? How difficult was that? Or was it just sort of something that was smooth? You came in ready to go out there and play tackle?
Yeah, I mean, I played tackle in high school. Obviously, it's much different in college, but Coach Anderson tries to have us learn conceptually so we can play anywhere on the line. So it wasn't too difficult. Obviously, there's a couple different things you have to do at tackle than at guard or center. But it wasn't too bad having played that in high school. It wasn't a terrible transition. I actually went really smoothly. And then I had the help of guys like Nick Urban and Gunnar Vogel who helped me a ton, especially with our playbook that made that transition really smooth for me.
Jack Lito.
Hi, Jack Lito with WNUR. Peter, this question's for you. I think this is the first time we're talking to you since we heard the quote from Coach Anderson. The expectation for Northwestern left tackle is to be the best left tackle in the Big Ten. Do you feel that pressure? Does that pressure help you? And what are you doing to live up to those expectations?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I feel the pressure, but I know that there's a standard, especially replacing a guy like Rashawn Slater. to be a great tackle here and to be the best in the Big Ten. And so I think it goes day by day, your preparation every week and going into the game, just being prepared and, going hard at practice and working on your technique every time. I mean, Rashawn was a huge technician, so just learning from what he did to be the best. And that's my goal. And I want to get there too.
All right, we have time for 2 more. We're going to go to Amit and then Ella.
Brandon, this one's for you. There's a lot of not a lot of continuity, a lot of changing in the D-backs room. You're back there and you're new. Rod's back there and he's new. AJ, he played a little bit last year. How have you guys struggled or worked well to find chemistry? What has that been like, and how did it play out during week 1?
Well, I think we have one of the tightest DB rooms in the nation. All of us, we're all boys. We all love each other, and we're all working for each other on the field, and we know that. So I think that chemistry that off the field, we can take that on the field. And every play, my corners know I got their backs, and they know the safeties got theirs. So we just work together as a group, whether we don't know who's going to start every game. So we're going to go out there as a group every time and do what we do.
Follow-up for you. You 3 guys joined what we're calling the pick club. You excited to join that club? What's the juice been like when you guys make a big turnover?
Turnovers have been an emphasis for us. 3 interceptions last year was not okay. That was a standard that needed to be raised, and we just did that. We just matched it in the first game. So this is what we're going to come like every week. DBs have the intentions to turn the ball over. That's a mindset for us. That's what we're going to do.
Ella.
Hi guys, Ella Brockway from the Daily Northwestern. Just to end it on a fun note, this is the first time in more than 10 years that Northwestern's playing a game on Halloween. So what were some of your best Halloween costumes as kids?
I've been a football player since I was little. Every Halloween, I'm just going to put some pads on, the jersey on, and I'm going to be a football player. It's what I love to do. So, yeah, that's me.
I think I went as like a samurai one year. Honestly, I don't really remember. I've definitely been a football player a couple of times too.
Thanks, guys. Associate head coach and defensive backs coach Matt McPherson and offensive line coach Kurt Anderson. Again, please message Athletic Communications in the chat, and we'll call on you to ask coaches questions. And we will start with Noah Kaufman.
Hey guys, Noah Kaufman, Insider New. This one's for Coach Anderson. Coach, just looking at the way you guys ran the ball this weekend, obviously you guys were super effective. Mick McCall, while he was at Northwestern, was known for the zone running scheme and really going to that almost exclusively. I can't see it too well on the field if there's something different, but I'm just wondering how different is it under Coach Bajakian, the way you guys are blocking those runs? Is there more pin and pull stuff, more power stuff, or is it kind of the same sort of setup?
No, I think it's a completely different setup. It's a completely different offense. There's Coach Jake and I both have similar pro-style NFL backgrounds. So it marries up some of the stuff that we do in the run game. We're going to be very multiple in terms of the type of runs that we have in terms of schemes, and then marry that up with the protections. So obviously we kind of looked at there's obviously zone schemes or zone schemes. Do we keep things the same in terms of terminology? We decided to just go from scratch and start from square one and rewrite an entire playbook and have them learn it from scratch instead of having any sort of carryover whatsoever.
Do you have a follow-up, Noah?
Yeah, just to sort of follow up with that, you guys have a lot of linemen carryover, obviously some new linemen as well. We just talked to Peter Skronsky. How is it tougher coming in as a lineman when you've got that multiplicity like you're talking about, when you're doing all sorts of different stuff? Or does it, since you guys started from scratch, does that make it sort of everybody's starting from square one on the line?
Well, I think obviously from a learning perspective, you're all at the same points because you're learning calls, techniques, conceptually, you're learning some different concepts. But you can't replace game time experience and game time feel at the college level. And so obviously the vets obviously have an upper hand when it comes to feeling and seeing the game, knowing how a game week goes or preparation goes into preparing for whether it's camp, playbook, install, whatever it may be. Those guys have the upper hand when it comes to that. But yeah, from learning standpoint, my being here last year obviously was able to correlate some stuff to those guys, but really wanted to start from scratch. And so I think that's why you kind of see some of the young guys able to keep up in terms of the mental aspect of the install because they all started at the same point.
Daniel.
Hi, Daniel Olinger for Inside and You. I have a question for Coach McPherson. Last year, Iowa was able to hurt your guys' defense with some big chunk plays, particularly Tyrone Tracy Jr. had catches of 50 yards and 38 yards. What's the plan this year to kind of prevent those big chunk plays in the passing game?
Well, the number one plan is to tackle him when he had the 12-yard gain on his touchdown. That would be first and foremost in the game plan. And then we're not getting too far off of what we're doing. Obviously, we're going to have some new stuff for them, and a lot of it comes down to us just being in the right call. I'm not even talking from a coordinator perspective, but us out there on the field, putting us in the right coverages based on their formations and what we expect to get from them.
Paul Banks.
Paul Banks, the Sports Bank and ESPN Radio, Cedar Rapids, Iowa City. This one's for Coach McPherson. Amir Smith-Marset was shut out last week against Purdue, but he had a big season last year. We know how dangerous he can be. So what are some of the specific skills and abilities he brings that could pose a challenge to the secondary?
Yeah, I think, the first and foremost, he's a great athlete. He has great speed. He's a long guy. And so gives you a big catch radius. And so obviously those present challenges, especially when off of the play action pass and they try to single them up. There's a saying as a DB coach, when you got tall wide receivers, is the further down the field they go, the taller they get, right? And so just from an athletic standpoint and an overall size standpoint, he's going to cause a lot of problems for a lot of people.
When you say the further down the field they go, the taller they get, is that kind of in reference to just on outside routes, or is that for jump balls? Or
yeah, as you start talking, jump balls and back shoulder throws and things like that, that the further down the field it goes, the more it becomes to the wide receiver's advantage. And then when you have a tall, long guy like that, it just becomes even more advantageous for him.
Thanks.
Ella Brockway.
Hi, Ella Brockway from the Daily Northwestern. Another question for Coach McPherson. When we spoke to Coach Hankowitz earlier this preseason, he'd been saying that the main priority was the defense needs more takeaways this year, and then you come out with 3 interceptions in the opening game. What was kind of your mindset throughout that offseason? Was there any practice changes, new drills, kind of things that you did just to make sure that when the season started, you guys were in a position that would allow you to really improve on that takeaway number?
Yeah, I don't think there was a ton of new drills. We tried to do more ball drills in the spring. Try to incorporate more ball drills in the preseason camp. But more than anything, it was about a mindset change that was led by the players. We were pretty darn good last year on defense, and so but their mindset was our big hole that, as you talked about, was the takeaways. And so that was really, especially in my room, was player driven of, it wasn't okay just to be in the right spot. It wasn't okay anymore just to have a PBU. It wasn't okay to drop an interception. They really took it upon themselves to put the pressure on themselves to make plays and not just be in the right spot and not just do the right thing, but to become playmakers.
Drew Schott.
Hi, this is for Coach McPherson, Drew Schott from the Daily Northwestern. After the 40-point win against Maryland, JR spoke about the next man up mentality. And obviously there were some questions about the secondary room with Travis opting out and then Greg not being able to play against Maryland. And Rod and Brandon, 2 of the youngest players in the room, led the team in tackles against the Terrapins. So can you kind of speak about that next man up mentality and kind of both the veterans and kind of the newer players to the room and kind of how it's meshing and working out?
Yeah. Unfortunately, we've had experience with next man up for over the last 3 years. We haven't had a healthy secondary all the way through a season since I've been the DB coach. I kind of feel like it's payback for having Justin Jackson for 4 straight years and him always playing. Eventually the football karma gods are going to get you. So we're used to that. We're used to that next man up mentality. And to be quite honest, the way I go about teaching is in that meeting room. It's not just the starters that are responsible for the information, the backups, the freshmen, everybody, when we go through our teaching progression is responsible for the information. Everybody has pressure put on them to know what we're doing and to know the scheme. And so I think a little bit it's built into the way in which I teach, and it's kind of been forced. And I think the kids see the benefit of that because of what has gone on over the last couple of years.
Noah.
Yeah, for Coach Anderson again. We were talking to Peter Skronsky earlier about Rashawn Slater and how they've been able to communicate, even since Rashawn's opted out. Obviously, you coached Rashawn last year, a guy who's almost certainly going to be playing on Sundays. When you compare those 2 guys, very early in Skronsky's career, obviously, what do you notice when you look at that comparison, and how impressed were you with Skronsky's performance on Saturday?
I think that the first thing is that they both have good genes, not the kind that you can buy at the store, but they both, Rashawn's dad played in the NBA for a long time. Peter's got family that have played in the NFL. And so they both are athletically very gifted. But I think the other thing that makes them kind of similar is that they put in the time and the effort to perfect their craft. And put as many tools in their toolbox. I mean, both those guys, Rashawn picking my brain about all the little details of different types of techniques, the what if scenarios, and Peter has been doing the same thing. And that's so you can kind of see where this path leads for Peter. As far as his performance, there's stuff that he needs to clean up. I think he's athletically talented. He's gifted. He's very, really bright. And I think there's better football ahead of him because I think he's got those first game jitters out of the way. The more you play the more you're going to be able to anticipate some of the looks, and the game slows down for you. I kind of compare it to the movie The Matrix, right? As you start to see safety rotations, you start to see linebacker fits and stuff like that. It can tell you what's happening up front, and all of a sudden the game slows down for you, and you can start dodging those bullets and doing all those sweet kung fu moves. So, so I think that he's only going to get better, obviously, and the camaraderie of playing next to a guy who's obviously been through the fray with Nick Urban, I think that's only going to help him as well.
Eli.
Apart from Inside and You, this one's for Coach McPherson. J.R. Pace, the lone senior back there in the secondary right now, playing a big leadership role. You talk a little bit about, what he's been to the other younger players and how he's, really tried to elevate the position's performance.
Sorry, I haven't done Zoom very often, so I don't know how to unmute myself. I think he's done a great job of, once again, he has the most experience, and so I think he's been a pretty steady force back there, just far as, keeping guys calm, keeping guys under control, helping them with how to prepare throughout the week of film study. And, we only get so much as coaches that we can meet with those guys. And so a lot of the homework, a lot of the extra stuff has to be player driven. And so having a guy like that, and, even Cam Ruiz, two of the older guys in that room, I think they've done a great job of helping the young guys, which, through the first couple of weeks, not only of camp, but also the first week of the season.
Amit.
This is a question for both coaches. A phrase we've heard so many times in this first few weeks is bring your own juice. We know you guys are both high energy coaches. What have you done to bring that? How has that manifested itself on game day? Is that making a difference this year?
Start with Mac and then Kurt.
I think that's always been a big part of our program. We've played our best when we've played with passion and emotion, and so in some ways, as a DB coach, I got to kind of walk that line a little bit, because you want those guys playing with passion and emotion, but when something bad happens, they got to let it go. And in the same way, when something good happens, they have to let it go, because you're always out there on an island as a DB. Your mistakes are always out there for everybody to see. And so I think, at least from a defensive back standpoint, they've done a great job of celebrating when they've made good plays and playing with passion, but then refocusing themselves and moving on to the next one when the time comes.
Kurt.
Yeah, I mean, it's I think it's a program thing. When I walked in here and saw how Northwestern practiced and how juicy it was out there, it was right up my alley. And so I really have been a firm believer and constantly tell my guys that their juice, their enthusiasm, their passion is infectious. And so you need to we want that to everyone to feel us and set the tone on a daily basis. And it's no different now. And I think obviously when you see that it's an empty stadium with fake crowd noise and stuff like that, I mean, it for us and our sideline at least, it feels like how we practice, because if you are fortunate enough to watch us practice and see how excited the sidelines get for play in and play out, that's our expectation, is to BYOJ and bring your own juice.
All right, we have time for two more. We're going to go with Drew and then Ella.
Hi, Drew Shaw from the Daily Northwestern. This is for Coach Anderson. So obviously there was a lot of turnover in terms of the offensive line with Jared Thomas graduating and then Rashawn Slater departing. What has the veteran presence this season been like from players like Gunnar Vogel and Nick Urban, not only in terms of helping the young guys like Skoronski learning the line, but also kind of leading and trying to play well kind of in the line of attack?
Yeah, I think that there's a lot to that. There's a lot to the emotions of the roller coaster that these veterans were on, preparing, going into their last season, and then having it subsequently kind of taken away, and the uncertainty of it. Then we're back on, and then we're off, and then so there was some emotional roller coasters that they went through. And we had some little side talks and made a decision that we were going to forge ahead. And whenever they let us play, there was going to be hell to pay, and we were going to unleash it and let all that out. And so once those guys made that decision, I think you saw the younger guys kind of follow their lead of not waiting to try and grow and develop. And so they've done a great job as far as leading those guys in that respect. That's the other aspect. Of course, they're going to lead them and show them the way of technique, how we go about our business in the O-line room in terms of preparation, and all those things. But I really think the emotional, besides the physical, especially in something as crazy of a pandemic that we're going through right now, and the times that we're in right now, I think the fortitude that they showed really strengthened our room together.
Final question, Ella Brockway.
To end it on a fun one here, this is the first time in more than 10 years that Northwestern is going to be playing a game on Halloween. So what were for both of you, some of your best Halloween costumes growing up?
Start with Mac and then Kurt.
My imagination stinks. So football coach and or football player, I guess I should say. And then I was a big just get a mask and get some candy, guy. Wasn't trying to show off. But also didn't want to just show up with nothing. So put a mask on, give me some candy, please.
As a kid growing up, I really, I was the youngest, and so I had older brothers. So one of my favorite movies was The Warriors. I don't know if you've ever seen that one, right? And so there was a lot of awesome characters that kind of come out of it, but I think I went with those baseball guys at least 2 or 3 times in a 5-year span, where I just got to put on my Little League uniform, paint my face, and go out with a baseball bat. And then, but lately, when you got 5 kids, you got to get creative and do that stuff. But one of my good buddies who worked for the Chicago Bulls gave me one of their warm-up suits. So I just put a headband on nowadays and just wear the warm-up suit and just be the last guy on the bench. That's kind of how I roll.
Thanks, guys. We'll get the coaches out of here. I'll stay on if you guys have any other questions.